Good morning. This is an account of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, written in Daniel chapter 3. King Nebuchadnezzar built a huge golden statue and commanded everyone in his kingdom to bow down and worship it when they heard the sound of the musical instruments playing, or else they would be thrown into the furnace. But these three Hebrew boys, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, refused to bow down and worship the statue. People reported them to the king, and he was furious. He called them into the palace and he spoke to them, saying, "I'll give you one more chance. When you hear the sound of the musical instruments playing, bow down and worship the statue, or else you will be immediately thrown into the fire." Who can save you from my power? He demanded of them. The three Hebrew boys responded, saying, "O king, we know that the God we serve is able to save us, and even if he doesn't, we will not bow down and worship the statue." The king became angry, his face red hot. He commanded his servants to make the furnace 7 times hotter, and called his strongest servants to tie Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego together. When it came time to throw them into the furnace, an entire crowd gathered around the king. The furnace was so hot that when the soldiers threw Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego into the fire, they themselves got burnt. Then the king pointed into the furnace and said, "Didn't we throw 3 men into the fire? I see 4 standing in the fire, walking around. They aren't tied together, and the 4th man looks like a god." The king approached the furnace as closely as possible so that he himself would not get burnt, and called them forth, saying, "Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, come out of the furnace." And to everyone's amazement, they were not burnt. Their hair wasn't burnt. Their clothes weren't burnt. They didn't even smell like smoke. And the same King Nebuchadnezzar that commanded his kingdom to bow down and worship a statue now commanded that they worship the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Now, what does this account teach us? This account is about courage. It shows us how to be courageous. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego respected the king as their leader. However, they did not obey his instruction, not because they wanted to be rude and mean and do whatever they wanted in spite of what the king said, but rather they realized that if they obeyed the king's instruction, they would have disobeyed God and sinned against him. They made the courageous stance to stand up and say, "No, we will not do this because this does not worship God." Even though they paid for it with their lives, because they were thrown into the furnace. But their story teaches us that God rewards our courage. Just like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, sometimes what we see everyone doing isn't righteous, but everyone's doing it. Other times, our friends, even our co-workers, encourage us to do things that we know don't worship God and don't glorify God. But let's learn from Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego to be bold and to be courageous and to stand up for what worships God. And as we learned from their story, even though they had to face the fire, God was with them and God delivered them from the fire. So just like those 3 Hebrew boys, let us believe God so that even when we face the fire for our courage, we know that he is with us. Let's be courageous.